Welcome to Purpose After the Pain, where God has made us stewards of our pain in order to fulfill our purpose. I am your host, Minister Margie Williams, and I am so excited for today to bring you into another episode of our podcast. If this is your first time, I do ask that you would like and share. If you want to know a little bit more about this, go out and check out my other videos. But I want to get into today what we're going to be discussing on today. Purpose After the Pain came out of a journey of me experiencing infertility. And so it's an opportunity for other women to share their experiences and how they've overcome and how they allowed their purpose to produce pain. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our guest on today. All right. Hello, hello.
Hey.
So for everyone, this is my cousin, Nicole. Woo, woo, woo. So, cousin, how we do is we just, start with introducing yourself to the people, let them know who you are and a little bit about you.
Okay, well, my name is Nicole. I am married mom of three. I have three kids. I am originally from Chicago, born and raised in the Chicago area, represent. But then I'm currently residing in Auburn, Alabama, with my family. We've been here for almost 5 years now. And yeah, I work at a local church here where I oversee our volunteer activities. That's my full time job, and I love it. And yeah, God is good.
All right. Well, listen, I kind of introduced the audience to, again, the purpose of this podcast is us really discussing motherhood, discussing infertility, discussing child loss. So without further ado, I just want you to just talk about your start of motherhood and how that started, how it went for you, emotions, all of that excitement and all of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was married in 2000, what was that? 2008. I married in 2008. My husband and I knew very early that I wanted to have kids and that I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was kind of our plan all along. We wanted to wait a little bit, after we got married, but probably about a year after we got married was when I felt like it was time we had bought a house. We kind of went through all the traditional, I guess you could say, steps of getting married, moved in together, bought a house, did all that. And then I felt like, okay, now I'm ready to enter this journey. I was also, at that time, I was 29. So I was kind of feeling like, okay, this is a good time to go ahead and start it. Because I had said I wanted to be done with kids, having kids when I was
Yes.
35. We put these time, constraints in our head, which is crazy. Sometimes we think back to it, but that's what I was thinking at the time. And so, yeah, we started trying to have a baby. And I was one of those people who was fortunate enough to get pregnant pretty much immediately.
Okay.
I had been on birth control for a while, and the first month that I stopped taking my birth control, I got pregnant. And
Wow.
it was, I never took that for granted because I had so many friends that were just in different spaces of that. But it really kind of just happened very easily for us the first time. And then we had our daughter Nia in 2010. And I knew I wanted to have my kids kind of closer together. My sister and I are about 2 years apart. So um, yeah, when Nia was about, coming up on a year was when we started thinking about, possibly trying again. And I wanted to celebrate my birthday first. So I had I had a, because I was pregnant on my 30th. No, I had just had Nia on my 30th birthday. And so
Okay.
when I turned 31, I was like, I'm going to do a 30th birthday remix. And so I had my trip to, I took a trip to Miami with my friends. I did my 30th birthday at 31. And then I was like, okay, now we can go ahead and start trying again. And again, it happened pretty quickly. It wasn't quite as, it might have been the second month. Um, when I got pregnant with Imani. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, we were planning it obviously. So I was, waiting and kind of anticipating, but yeah, it happened again fairly quickly. And I was like, okay. And so that was another, I've been very blessed. I've had very easy pregnancies at that point,
Mhm.
no complications, no sickness.
Wow.
I, went through the natural just gaining weight and stuff, but it was nothing. I didn't gain that much weight, honestly. I just had very easy pregnancies, and I'm so grateful for that. And then, so a couple years go by,
Yeah.
and I knew I wanted more children. My husband was not really sure
Yeah.
if he was in agreement
Yeah.
with that. So I like to say we got pregnant by accident on purpose
Okay.
uh, because I knew what we were doing, and I
Yeah.
knew that I was probably going to get pregnant. But he had said at that point he was not ready to start trying for a third one.
Okay.
But lo and behold, I found out I was pregnant,
Okay.
and it was pretty much like my other pregnancies. You get bigger every time, so it was like the second one I got bigger fast, and then this pregnancy I got really big really fast. I think I had started showing. I was probably maybe 4 to 6 weeks in that area, and I was like showing for real, not just like a little bit. But I had shown early with Imani, my second, as well, and so I didn't really think anything of it. Went in, did the standard stuff, and then it was about, so they don't do the ultrasound until you are, I think it was somewhere like 16 to 18 weeks. So I had done the pregnancy test. I had done, whatever blood tests and, blood work and everything, but we didn't have an ultrasound because I had no pre-existing issues or anything. We had our ultrasound at about 18 weeks, 16 to 18 weeks. And that was when we were going to find out the gender. We had not found out the gender for for our first two pregnancies. But for the third one, I was like, okay, I'll let you find out, because Randy wanted to know.
That's what I was gonna say. What made you make that decision?
I just was always like super traditional and like crunchy. Like I wanted to have all my, I wanted to have all my babies naturally. I
Yeah.
didn't want to find out. I wanted to I felt like if that's how they did it in the olden days, that's how I want to do it now. That's basically it. Was no, I mean, that's what really. I just was like, that's what I want to do. That's what they used to do. I could do it. Um,
Okay.
and I like surprises. So I
Okay.
was like,
Got
I
it.
would like to be surprised when I have my children. So yeah, I was able to have two. I was able to have natural births, and yeah, that was a blessing too, because that was something that I had really just wanted to do when I set out to get pregnant and have kids. And so, yeah, we went in for just a routine ultrasound where we were hoping to find out the gender and all that. And I just remember, they were doing the ultrasound, and, just the normal, it takes a little while. They're trying to find the baby, looking for different placements. And we were sitting there, and the lady was like, I see two babies, but one heartbeat. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because yeah, that was not something we had heard, or no, nothing had come up, I guess, in the lab work to indicate that. And yeah, she was like, I see two sacks, I see two babies, but I only am finding one heartbeat. And so, she went around and, was trying to be sure. And I just remember feeling like this, I don't even know how to describe it, because it's like that. It's a feeling that I didn't know that
Yeah.
I had two babies in there. But then there was a deep sense of loss immediately. Like I remember, just starting, tears kind of starting to fall. And I looked at Randy, and I was just like, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to say. It was just very jarring, because
Yeah.
again, that was not what I was expecting to hear, that there were two babies, let alone that one did not have a heartbeat. And I remember being concerned about the baby that did have a heartbeat, and just asking questions about, how that baby was doing and what that baby looked like. And I was asking, as they went on, I asked them about if they could see the gender of the baby that did not have a heartbeat, and they couldn't because of the position that the baby had been in. But what they said was, based on the size of the baby and what they were seeing, it was a fully formed baby, and they thought that it might have the heartbeat might have stopped at about 16 weeks. I must have been closer to 20 weeks, because I remember them saying it was around between 16 and 18 weeks was what they estimated the fetus as being. And so it had only been, I had been carrying two babies for most of that time and didn't know it. And so, immediately it was like, okay, well, what happens with this baby? If the heart is not beating, but it's there and it's formed, what happens with that? And they basically said that at this point, they would just monitor me, that usually the baby would be absorbed by the fluid and the tissue that was already there, and that it should not endanger the other fetus, barring any complications. And so, I just left that doctor's visit feeling like so many mixed emotions. It's hard to explain, because I had a living baby that was healthy, that was, just seemed to be developing well. But I was immediately now on high risk and had to see the maternal fetal medicine doctors more often throughout this pregnancy. And they were just going to kind of monitor it and see, what happened. And it was, like I said, a very strange feeling. We had scheduled a gender reveal for like the next week. Very close after we found out, we had a gender reveal scheduled. Like I want to say my appointment might have been like on a Monday or Tuesday. We had the gender reveal scheduled for like Saturday. So because we wanted to do like a surprise and, do all that. And so, I remember feeling like I don't know what to do with this, because it was like I felt grief, but I also felt joy and great gratitude that I had a baby that was healthy and that was doing okay, but also just sadness but also relief, because I was like, ooh, twins, like, and then guilt, because then I was like, oh, I'm not saying it like that, but twins, and it was just all these things going through my head. And so, but ultimately, I remember shortly after kind of the shock and just the digesting it, maybe the next day or two, I started to feel, I just felt like God gave me a sense of peace about it. And so, I felt like I grieved, but I also was just so overwhelmed with gratitude, because there was a baby that was still alive and that was still doing well. And there were quite my mom and Randy, they were kind of like, do you still want to do the gender reveal? And I felt like I did. I still wanted to celebrate the baby that we were going to have. And again, I was so grateful that I had a baby. And I just knew, I remember thinking too, just about like how many women experience this and don't have that baby that they can still bring home, or that baby that they can still carry, and just, feeling grief about it. And just, it was just a lot of different emotions. Some guilt. I think there was a little bit of guilt, because you think about, again, we have friends and other people. I actually had a close friend who had a miscarriage. We were pregnant around the same time. And she had a miscarriage with her baby. It might've been, I think hers was before I found out about the twin that passed away. But, just that guilt, I guess, a little bit of guilt with feeling like, I'm so blessed and thankful that I'm able to still have this child healthy inside of me. And so, we went on ahead and had the gender reveal. We found out it was a boy, and we had our two girls, and now we were going to have a boy. And honestly, the rest of my pregnancy was pretty uneventful. I mean, thank God it was. They monitored me for a while, and then they were kind of like, they weren't seeing the baby, the fetus anymore. So it had absorbed or whatever it was going to do, and there was no issues with the viable pregnancy. And yeah, we found out when I delivered the baby, when I had Elijah, um, I was actually planning to use my placenta for some crunchy things. And so, um, so I had a plan to, get my placenta after and
Yeah.
like freeze it. And basically, what happened was when the placenta came out, there was tissue from the fetus
Okay.
attached to the placenta, which never caused any issues, but it meant that they couldn't use the placenta for any kind of medicinal purposes or what
Yeah.
I was wanting to use it for. So, and I remember, after pushing Elijah out, and they were kind of like, they told me that that was what was that's what happened, and they had the placenta, and they were kind of like, do you want to see it? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't, I was like, I don't, because it wasn't like a fully formed anything. I think it was just, anyway, I think my mom and Randy might have looked at it. But I just remember, I don't know, I was just very overwhelmed with gratitude for
Mhm.
Elijah. And I was just always, that was kind of always in my mind. And so, yeah, I feel like God really has given me a great sense of peace. I mean, there's definitely times, since he's been born, that I've thought about, what life would have been like,
Yeah.
what that child would have been like, whether it would have been a boy or a girl. And, I have those thoughts for sure, but I also have those thoughts of like, God chose you. God chose Elijah for our family and for our lives. And that keeps me just grateful, more than, I guess, sad or
Yeah.
grieving about
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, sometimes, with women that have also had children prior and they even have miscarriages, sometimes there's the guilt that I have heard about because it's like, well, I do have children, but I had a
Mhm.
loss, but a loss of a child is a loss of a child, whether you have children or you don't. It's still
Yeah.
the same feelings of losing a human that was there that no longer is there. So even to kind of think through that, what was because a lot of times too, we feel certain things, but also your husband. How did your husband cope with the loss of your child?
I mean, Randy is very even keel. Uh he's very grounded, and he tends to keep me more grounded than I probably would be. And so I think he handled it. I think he grieved in his own way, but he was also just probably more concerned about my grief.
Yeah.
Um, I think for both of us it was strange because I didn't have a connection in the sense of like knowing that I had that child. So I understand for him. For me, it was, even it felt like a little bit of a disconnect, because it was like I didn't even know, I don't know. It's hard to feel like you have in some ways like this connection to a
Yeah.
child. When you have a baby in there is one thing, but I guess I don't know. I think for him, um, although I think he was sad for me and like sad for us to be having to go through just knowing that we would have had a lot, that we would have had another baby, that we experienced this loss. I think he also just felt like, okay, well, this was just not in the plan for us. He was probably a little relieved too,
Yeah.
because he probably he wasn't even sure he wanted one more, let
Yeah.
alone two. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he was breathing a little sigh of relief that, not,
Yeah.
of course, that happened, but just
Understood.
that we were not having to face, a twin
Two mouths.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Got it.
But yeah, he was just real strong and there for me in whatever way that I needed to grieve. He wanted to help me to be able to process that. So,
Got it. So, what makes this episode kind of different than others, while you've discussed your loss, I also wanted to make sure that we talked about not just the loss of a physical child, but just what we experienced in our family
Mhm.
that brought purpose out of a very, very painful situation. And so I wanted you to be able to share because I think it's such a blessing that when tragedy happens, when pain happens, how we can still see God as He is and also discover purpose. So I want you to share a little bit with the audience of how we as a family experienced the loss of a child and how you found purpose after the pain.
Right. So yeah, we have a first cousin who she's probably, I think she's 10 or 11 years younger than me. So she's significantly younger than most of our us cousins. And she just grew up in some hard circumstances, a lot of dysfunction. Her parents were not able to take care of her. She was kind of in and out of different cares as a very young child, and eventually was living with our grandmother, and then at one point living with my mother, who had taken her and her brother in to take care of them and try to provide for them a better life. And unfortunately, she just continued to have some issues as she got older and kind of was in and out of juvenile detention centers and different situations. She ended up getting pregnant as a teenager. I think she was about 18 with her first pregnancy, and ended up having two girls at a pretty young age, and just again was just trapped in kind of a cycle of dysfunction, whether with relationships, with education, with just her lifestyle and everything. And so, as much as we tried to help her and support her, she just was not in a place to really receive a lot of help and support at the time. And a couple years ago, she took the life of her youngest daughter named Willow, who was 7 at the time. And she took her life in a very brutal and horrific way. Um, our family found out on the internet, and basically, it was devastating. I mean, we had in contact and interaction with her and her children over the years and had kept in touch. It had not been that long since we had seen them, at least via video. It was around the COVID stuff still happening. But yeah, it was pretty shocking. And although we knew she had issues, we never anticipated that it was to that level, that she would take her child's life, a 7-year-old. And yeah, it changed the course of my life. I can say that with certainty now. I just remember feeling um, devastated, but also I really kept hearing God telling me to find purpose for the pain during that time. And God had given me kind of a passion for young moms even before that, because of what I had seen my cousin go through, and wanting to be able to support her, but just never being able to physically do that because I was living in different places. She was living in, we never were really in the same place at the same time, living, and I wasn't able to support her the way I wanted to and felt like she needed. And so I had started working with organizations that helped young moms when I lived in Illinois. And so since we had moved to Alabama, I had not done that. And when this happened, I just immediately felt like I need to go find this community. Like, I want to serve these women. I want these women to know that they have support and they have love, and that they have somebody who doesn't want anything from them. And so yeah, I felt God really calling me to find purpose. And so it started with me looking for organizations that help young moms. And so I was looking around in our area and the areas around us, and I wasn't finding that. Sorry, my shirt looks crooked. I wasn't finding that. And I started volunteering at a local pregnancy center, where you see all ages of moms. But I felt like God was saying, if you don't find it, then you need to create it. And I was like, Okay, I don't really know how to do that. I've never done anything like that before. But I felt so convicted that God wanted me to find purpose for Willow's life and
Mm.
for her death, and that there was something and someone that He wanted to reach because of this pain, that He was present even in the pain of what we
Yeah.
were experiencing, that there was purpose, that He wanted me to find that purpose. And so that's what I did. I started volunteering at this local pregnancy center where I was, meeting a lot of young women, a lot of moms who were trying to decide what to do with their pregnancies. And then once they decided they wanted to keep their babies, just needed support and help. And God gave me kind of a vision for a young moms group. And it was to be a group where young women could come together that were expecting or had kids, and we can talk and just try to offer them support and just love along the journey, just with other moms as well, having mentor moms. So the name God gave me was Living for More. Living, the number 4 and more. And yeah, I started having meetings, and I initially had no idea who was going to come to the meetings. I had met some young moms through the pregnancy center and had invited them. But, I didn't know if any of them would show up. I didn't know if I'd ever see them again, most of them. And, but I would keep in touch with some. And eventually there was one, and then there was two, and then there were three moms. And I was meeting people within our community and, talking about what I was doing. And some people, one lady sent a mom that she knew that was in her family to our group. And yeah, we just started meeting. It started off, it was very small, but it was, just talking. And I would provide childcare and a meal during our meetings. And then the next semester, I met a young lady who invited several people to the group, and the group kind of grew. And I had at one point like 8 or 9 young ladies that were coming, here and there, and that I was in touch with. And yeah, it became a support group for young moms, and a lot of whom I'm still in touch with now, and keep in touch with, and they've had their babies. I saw a few babies that were born, while they were within the group. And yeah, the logo. I had a vision for a logo. I wanted Willow to be a part of the logo.
Yeah.
And so in the logo that one of my cousins, who's very talented, created and kind of made the vision that I had come to life. But it's a willow tree for Willow. And then within the willow tree is an engraving of D plus W, which is Destiny, was her surviving sister, and Willow. And so that was part of my logo. And I just always felt like I wanted to honor her life. And that was the way that God helped me find purpose for that pain. And it just, no matter what tragedy happened, I felt like I know that there were moms and our moms that have been impacted because I was obedient to
Yeah.
finding that purpose. And so, although I hate that this happened to Willow and to Destiny, I know that God has found purpose for it.
Yes.
And so that was my purpose after the pain.
Amen. Listen, the time has gone so fast, right? So
That's it. I
just
talk a
want
lot. I'm sorry.
just want to thank you for joining me on this. And I wanted to end with that because as you stated, it was a tragedy that hit our family in a very hard way that we didn't really know how to manage because when you hear these stories, but you never expect these things to hit your home. And so when they hit your home, it rattles you in such a way. But as you stated, I'm so grateful that you found a purpose in such pain to the point that you are helping others to bring life into the world and to have someone to they know that loves them. And so thank you for just your heart and what you're doing there in Alabama. and just praying God's favor on that, because there's so many young ladies that get in situations with pregnancy and don't have support. But to know that you are, whether that's 8, 9, and we're expecting more, them to know that they have someone that's willing to see them, be there for them in the midst of what it is that they're going through as it pertains to pregnancy. So wanted to thank you for that. And I just want to thank you all for joining us. Listen, if you know of any young ladies that are in the Alabama area that are in need of support, I want you to hit up my cousin. I'll make sure that I share her information in this, but also just wanted to just encourage those, whether you are in your struggle of infertility, you've had children and had a loss is a loss. But my prayer is that you know the presence of God like never before, even in the midst of our pains. I'm just reminded of Romans 8 that tells us that God works all things for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so he will take those situations that we experience and make it for our good, but also for his glory. And so I thank you for joining us. Be back next week to hear more amazing stories. We love you. Take care and God bless.